The world champion Domaraju Gukesh is leading the Tata Steel Masters 2025. He's currently on 8 points out of 11, and in the 12th round, he's taking on Jorden van Foreest. This is going to be an important game for Gukesh as Pragnananda and Nodirbek are on his heels, just half a point behind. And there you have the creative Dutchman Jorden coming in. He has worked as the second for Magnus Carlsen before and is well known for his opening play. He has such amazing ideas in the opening that it will be interesting to see how he manages to play against currently the player who is maybe playing the best classical chess in the world. Gukesh, of course, became the world champion, but before that, won the candidates, topped on the first board at the Olympiad, and now in this tournament is performing close to 2900 ELO, gaining a massive 16 ELO points already. So he is on 2793, and this will be an exciting game to follow. Let's see how Gukesh manages to play against Jorden. As Jorden adjusts his pieces, we are ready to rock and roll here. The game is about to begin. The players shake hands and off we go. Now, Jorden with the first move opens with d4. Jorden can play d4, e4, he generally can play any move, and Gukesh decides to be solid, which is a sensible choice against a player like Jorden because he will mix things up, he will create a mess on the board. c4 played by Jorden, and now e6, the Queen's Gambit declined, is on the board. Jorden plays his knight out to c3, and there are many ways in which white can play here. One is knight f6, the other is bishop e7. Gukesh goes for the latter. He develops his bishop. One of the advantages of this move order is that now bishop g5, pinning the knight is not possible. So he takes on d5 and pawn takes d5. This opens up Gukesh's bishop to come out. We'll see if he manages to do that successfully, because many times you have to be careful when you get your bishop out. There's queen b3 attacking b7 and d5. So for now, bishop f4 played, and Gukesh solidifies his center with the move d5, c6. Pawn comes up to e3, opening up the other bishop to go out. So very logical chess until now, and now Gukesh brings his bishop out to f5, and he tells Jorden that, hey, I've solved all my problems related to that bishop. It's developed here. Jorden goes knight e2, and you can see how he's intending to play against this bishop. He would love to go knight g3, play h4, h5, and try to make this bishop passive. Gukesh goes knight d7. And one of the natural moves now here is definitely h4 to gain more space. But rook c1 played, getting the rook into the game. Maybe Jorden is already out of his prep. Gukesh is still blitzing out his moves. And this one he plays after 13 minutes of thought. So you can see that black has got all his pieces out here. The only issue I see is with this bishop on f5. It can get into some trouble, and Jorden plays against it. He goes knight g3. Gukesh has a choice to go back to e6, which is okay, it's playable, or to go back to g6. Let's see where he heads to. He goes back to g6, puts his bishop on this long diagonal, and now what you don't want is to just trade off this bishop. You want to make this uncomfortable. Go h4, go h5, try to gain some space. And that's exactly what Jorden is getting his hands to. h4 is on the board. You can expect Jorden van Foreest to play it this way. h4. Very exciting stuff now. And Gukesh can go h6 or h5. He decides to take equal space on the king side with h5. But now this pawn can become a small weakness when you are attacking it 3 times with your bishop, queen and knight. Let's see what he does here. He plays his bishop to e2. The bishop is well placed, attacking the pawn. And queen to b6. The queen comes in, putting pressure on the b2 pawn. And Jorden gets his queen up to d2. So he defends it this way. He doesn't want to trade queens. And now Gukesh makes an error. He goes knight g4. And one of the points here is to play e4. D takes e4. Bishop takes. Pawn takes. h5. Bishop h7 and h6 with a very huge initiative that is flowing. Can he play this move e4 is the big question here. Jorden is thinking it's a very nice move, but instead he goes bishop g5. And it's interesting that Jorden is playing this move. Gukesh, of course, if he takes, he would be in trouble because that would simply open up the h file, and this is just bad. But he plays bishop d6, which is a good move. And now Jorden comes back to f4, offering a trade again. So maybe he's okay with a draw here against Gukesh. Gukesh comes back to e7. This gives another opportunity to play e4. Also, by the way, bishop takes, pawn takes, h5 is a strong way to continue. Well, Jorden is ready for a draw, and already he is better, so I believe Gukesh most likely should also be okay with a draw. But then again, Gukesh is a fighter. You never know. He comes back queen d8. He is fighting here. Gukesh wants to play a long game. And I think it's perhaps a good decision because Pragg might win his game against Sarana. We also have Arjun, who might be able to press against Nodirbek, but it could also go the other way. So Gukesh realizes it's too early to take a draw. Knight f6 back. And he's also a big fighter, you know, he loves to fight. And Jorden castles here. Now, this castling is a little bit tricky business that Jorden has gotten into because, yeah, knight h7, good move there by Gukesh. He's asking a question to this bishop, like if you play f4, it does cement the bishop, but f6 could trap it. As of now, f5 is possible, but still, he goes bishop e7, which is not the best possible solution because after queen takes on e7, which he does, now the h4 pawn is hanging. So what do you do about it? It's not so easy to defend it. Jorden has an important question to answer here. And he plays the move f4. So he's ready to give up this pawn on h4. And will Gukesh chop it up? I think so. He takes the pawn. Queen takes h4. And if you try to sort of trap the bishop, I'm winning this pawn, winning the knight. So you can't trap it right now. You have to first defend your knight on g3. He plays queen e1, defending the knight, and his threat is now f5 to trap the bishop on g6. f5 played here by Gukesh, the best move in the position, but you can feel the disdain on the face of the bishop on g6. It's like, why the hell do I have to play in such a position? But knight h5, suddenly the bishop has some occupation elsewhere. The queens are being offered for trade here. Will Gukesh exchange the queens is the question. Maybe the better move is not to trade, and he plays queen e7, which is the best move. Now e3 is hanging. H file has opened up. The white king is shivering a bit. Bishop f3 played here by Jorden. And now bishop takes h5. Gukesh finds the best move once again. Takes it. And after bishop takes h5, the question is, do you go to d8 or do you go to f8? Which side do you want to go to? Both are possible. He goes to f8. And now Jorden van Foreest, how does he continue this position? He brings his knight to d1 defending the pawn here, also preparing this longish maneuver to get the knight right into the center and the heart of the position. Knight to b6 by Gukesh. He's also trying to maneuver this knight to a good square. And bishop g6 played here by Jorden. He's attacking the pawn on f5. It has to be protected. Queen e6, asking the question to the bishop. And he gives a check. The king has no squares here to go to, so king g8 is the better move. Yes, king g8. Bishop takes h7 check. Rook takes on h7. And now rook to f3 played. So this move, the rook coming up, defends the pawn on e3. And the idea is to switch the rook to the other side. Rook e8, trying to keep pressure on the e3 point. And knight f2. So Jorden starting to move faster here. He also has a nice plan in mind, which is to get knight d3 to e5. Knight comes to c4. Giving up the pawn on b7. Will Jorden take it? No, he's not interested. He goes knight d3. Taking this pawn is not a good idea. Rook e1 and you lose the piece. So rook h4 played. And he jumps in. Knight to e5. Gukesh needs to be careful now. He plays b5 move to cement his knight on c4, but that does weaken the c6 square a bit. He goes queen c5. He's attacking this pawn on c6. If you take knight e5, I go d. I have a passer. I have pressure here. That's not what you want. So Gukesh goes queen h6. He's trying to get down onto the c file. King f2. Running away. What a game this is turning out to be. And look at the times on the clock. Both players have 5 minutes with 7 more moves to make. And rook e6 played by Gukesh. Rook takes c4 by Jorden, sacrificing an exchange here. Wow. What a move. And all of a sudden Gukesh is in some trouble now because the white king looks safe. The knight on e5 is very strong. Queen takes a7. The queen is active. What is black going to do next? There's a check threatened here. Gukesh comes back, defends this check. And now rook to g3. So putting pressure on the g file. Jorden has played excellently. And I love Gukesh. Oh, rook h1 with just 4 seconds left. Or 30 seconds left. He plays rook h1. And now the rook is well placed. It swung out from the board, by the way. Knight d7. And now again, very important move to find. Queen d8. Finds it. Defense OP. He's defending really well. Gukesh. And Jorden comes back. Now there is a mate threatened here on g7. So you can repeat with queen f6. And it seems logical. But he goes rook a7. And the queen comes back to a6. Now Gukesh on the 39th move has an amazing move. Rook takes e5. But it's very difficult to see in 1.5 minutes. He's calculating here. The main point being d5 is impossible because the queen enters and fe5 is met with f4 to open up the position. He takes it. He finds it with just 3 seconds left. What a guy, Gukesh. What a guy. Fe taken and now he has 40 moves. Reached 40 moves here with this next move. He has only 33 seconds, but I think his move is clear. He pushes f4. Fantastic move. Because if e takes f4, queen takes d4 is already leading to a checkmate here. And white is busted. So Jorden, who is not very happy, goes rook h3. Now Gukesh has a winning advantage. His moves on 39th and 40th move have given him that. It was great presence of mind by Gukesh to find these moves. fe3. Now naturally you can't take because queen g5, and if the queen and the rook coordinate, it's game over. So Jorden rightly plays king e2. And the main way to win now is to take queen d4. Of course, it's difficult to calculate these perpetuals, but you are able to get out of it. Unfortunately, Gukesh did not calculate it thoroughly and goes rook b1. This allows Jorden actually to now have his chances, because this is no longer winning for Gukesh. So he takes the pawn on c6 here. He takes on c6. And now Gukesh very importantly has to take the pawn on b2. That's why he went there. Once again, king e3 falls to queen g5 check. Black wins this position. So you have to go only king f3. He finds that one as well. Clearly great play by Jorden. Queen f8 check. And now this king once again can't take here. Queen f2 check. So king g4, king e4. Which one? King g3. He plays king e4. Fantastic move. And now the threat is queen d5 check. And this king is in trouble. There's rook h8 check also coming to sacrifice if the queen blocks. And Gukesh finds the only defensive move, rook f2. It's brilliant. Brilliant defense there by Gukesh. Goes queen e6 check. And now maybe the only move is queen f7 to hold here. But still the rook endgame looks very complex. He comes back rook f7. But now Jorden can win with queen g6 and threatening a mate here. It's actually a winning position here for white. But Jorden thinks for his 19 minutes 23 seconds he should invest some time here to see if he can find the win. Can he do that? But instead he moves very quickly in 30 seconds and chops off the pawn on e3. And now Gukesh is back in the game. He plays queen a8 check. And he has a lot of counterplay now. And Jorden needs to make the next move. He pushes pawn to d5. His pawns are great. His queen is also active. Black rook is pinned. But what Gukesh has going for him is that his queen is also active and is ready to give some checks. So if king d4 trying to run away, there's queen d2. So that doesn't work. And if rook f3 here, then queen b1 check, only move. King d4, queen g1 check. And somehow you are not able to run away. And it would be a perpetual. So Jorden decides to give the perpetual himself. He goes queen c8 check. Rook comes back to f8. And he comes back with the check. Rook comes up to f7. And another check. And the players shake hands. What a game this was. An absolute topsy-turvy one. First Gukesh making an error in the opening, leading himself to be in a very difficult situation. Then Jorden wanting to repeat, but Gukesh saying, let's play on. Finally, Gukesh getting a great position, maybe even slightly better. But Jorden holding himself, and then that sacrifice, rook takes e5 under time pressure. I love how the players are analyzing. And then Gukesh getting close to winning advantage. But it lasted only a couple of moves. He didn't realize that he was winning. And then Jorden got a golden opportunity at some point. But he missed it. And in the end, the game ended in a draw. What a game between these two fighters. They've treated us to something truly special. With this, Gukesh keeps his lead in the tournament with 8.5 out of 12. But he's now joined in by Pragnananda, who won his game against Alexei Sarana. So both Gukesh and Prag are now on 8.5 out of 12. And this is going to be an exciting finish. Nodirbek could not join them because he lost his game to Arjun Erigaisi. Now Gukesh will take on Arjun Erigaisi in the last round with the white pieces, while Pragnananda will have the black pieces against Vincent Keimer. Nodirbek Abdusattorov, maybe an outside chance in this tournament, takes on Pentala Harikrishna, but clearly There's so much to discuss here in this game for Jorden and Gukesh. They both played extremely well, and really hats off and kudos to both of them for fighting so hard and treating us to an exciting game of chess.